Chapter 12. The calm before the storm. New Orleans, July 1925. The safe house was a crumbling shotgun shack on the edge of Bywater, a neighborhood where the city's edges frayed into the swamp. The walls were weathered gray, the roof sagged under the weight of neglect, and the air inside smelled of damp wood and kerosene. Julian Dubois had used this place before, a hideout for cases that turned ugly, but tonight it felt more like a fortress than a refuge. He barred the door with a rusted iron rod, his revolver still in hand, his dark eyes scanning the single room for any sign of danger. The skiff ride down the river had bought them time, the vampires repelled by the running water, but Julian knew they weren't safe, not yet, not with St. Roch's Cemetery and Victor LaRue waiting under the next full moon. At 35, Julian was a man stretched thin, his Creole heritage and Catholic faith battling the supernatural reality that had upended his world. The medallion from Father Antoine glowed faintly in his pocket, its hum a quiet reminder of the power they'd need to face LaRue. The vial of potion Mama Zora had given him, blood and herbs blessed by Baron Samedi, sat on a rickety table beside the holy water Father Antoine had provided, a weapon they'd need to anoint the medallion. But it was the weight of being the marked one that pressed heaviest on him, the spirit girl from his past a constant whisper in his mind, her hollow eyes, her voice calling his name in the bayou, marking him for this fight. His hand brushed the rosary in his pocket, a reflex that felt more desperate than devout, the prayers of his childhood a distant echo against the storm he was facing. Celeste Moreau sat on a creaky cot in the corner, her practical blouse and trousers still smudged with mud from their escape through the cypress grove, her auburn hair loose and tangled around her shoulders. At 28, she was a force of resilience, her green eyes sharp with focus despite the exhaustion etched into her features. Her purse, holding the 1895 case file, her notepad, and her small derringer, rested beside her, a testament to her journalist's determination to see this story through. She'd fought a vampire, survived an ambush, and now sat in a safe house with a man she barely knew but trusted with her life. The reality of their situation, vampires, rituals, a city on the brink, churned in her gut, but so did a fierce resolve to stop LaRue, to protect Julian, to uncover the truth. "We've got one day," Julian said, his voice low, his Creole accent thickening with the weight of their timeline as he turned from the door to face her. "The full moon's tomorrow night. Laur'll be at St. Roch's finishin' the ritual. We need to be ready, medallion anointed, plan in place, no mistakes." Celeste nodded, her fingers brushing the file on the cot beside her, her green eyes meeting his with a mix of determination and concern. "We'll be ready," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor of exhaustion beneath it. "But we need to know exactly what we're walking into. This file. There's more in here we haven't looked at. Details about the ritual, maybe something we can use." Julian crossed to the cot, sitting beside her, the springs creaking under his weight. He lit a kerosene lamp on the table, its dim glow casting flickering shadows across the room, and pulled the file between them. The yellowed pages smelled of time, the ink faded but legible, Julian's father's handwriting a stark reminder of the legacy he was carrying. They flipped through the 1895 case notes, their heads close as they read, the air between them charged with a quiet intimacy born of shared danger. "Here," Celeste said, pointing to a page near the end, her voice sharp with discovery. "It's a witness statement from a voodoo priestess who worked with Father Etienne. She says the ritual LaRue was attempting in 95 required 3 elements: blood of the innocent, souls of the taken, and the life of the marked one. The blood fuels the circle, the souls power the curse and the marked one's life. It's the final piece, the sacrifice that binds it all, giving LaRue eternal life beyond vampirism. Immortality without weaknesses, without the need for blood." Julian's jaw tightened, his hand clenching into a fist as the words sank in. "Me," he said, his voice raw, his dark eyes distant as the spirit girl's memory resurfaced, her hollow eyes staring through him, marking him for this moment. "That's why they're after me. My life. My soul. It's what he needs to finish this." Celeste's hand found his, her touch a grounding force in the storm of his thoughts, her green eyes filled with a fierce resolve. "He's not getting you," she said, her voice low, a promise that cut through the darkness. "We'll stop him, Julian. We've got the medallion, the potion, we'll get to him before he gets to you." Julian looked at her, his dark eyes searching hers, and for a moment, the walls he'd built around his heart, scarred by a lost love years ago, hardened by years of solitary cases, cracked a little more. Celeste was more than a partner now, more than a journalist chasing a story. She was a light in the darkness, a warmth he hadn't felt in years, and it scared him as much as the vampires did. "I don't want you gettin' hurt," he said, his voice gruff, his Creole accent softening the edges of his words. It's my fight, Celeste. I can't lose you to it." Celeste's expression softened, her hand squeezing his, her green eyes glistening with emotion she rarely let show. "It's our fight," she said, her voice trembling slightly, a vulnerability breaking through her usual bravado. "I've lost people too, Julian, my brother, to a mob hit when I was 20. I couldn't save him, but I can save you. I'm not going anywhere." For a moment they sat there, their hands clasped, the air between them heavy with unspoken feelings. Julian's free hand brushed a strand of auburn hair from her face, his touch tentative, his dark eyes filled with a mix of gratitude and something deeper, something he wasn't ready to name. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice barely audible, his thumb lingering on her cheek for a moment before he pulled back, the intimacy too raw, too dangerous in a night already filled with peril. Celeste's cheeks flushed, her journalist's mask slipping back into place as she turned to the file, her voice steady again. "There's one more thing here," she said, flipping to the last page, a handwritten note from Julian's father. "It says LaRue had a second, someone close to him, a human who helped with the ritual, gathering victims, covering his tracks. They called him the betrayer. No name, but we need to be on the lookout. If LaRue's got someone on the inside, we can't trust anyone." Julian's jaw tightened, a flicker of unease settling in his gut. "Someone close," he repeated, his mind racing through the people they'd encountered, Mama Zora, Father Antoine, even Eloise. He didn't want to believe any of them could betray him, but New Orleans was a city of masks, and trust was a luxury he couldn't afford. "We'll keep that in mind," he said, his voice gruff. "For now, we need to anoint the medallion, get some rest. Tomorrow night, it's going to be a fight." Celeste nodded, reaching for the vial of potion and the holy water, her movements deliberate as she mixed the dark liquid with the blessed water, its scent sharp and earthy. Julian held the medallion, its silver surface gleaming in the lamplight, and she poured the mixture over it, the liquid sizzling as it made contact, the medallion's glow flaring brighter, its hum growing stronger. "It's ready," she said, her voice a mix of awe and resolve, her green eyes meeting his. "We're ready." Julian set the medallion on the table, its light casting a soft glow across the room, a beacon in the darkness. "Get some sleep," he said, his voice gruff but warm, his dark eyes lingering on her for a moment longer than necessary. "I'll take first watch." Celeste nodded, lying back on the cot, her eyes already drifting closed, the exhaustion of the night catching up with her. But as Julian stood by the window, his revolver in hand, his gaze fixed on the shadows outside, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, not by vampires, but by something closer, something human. The betrayer was out there, waiting, and tomorrow night, under the full moon, everything would come to a head. New Orleans was a city of secrets, and Julian knew they were about to uncover the deadliest one yet.